right, Mackenzie, how are you doing today? We're here for another amazing podcast, right? I'm super excited about this one. Before we get to it, so what's going on in your life?
Not too much, just a lot of work, a lot of scholarship stuff still. I did actually try out a new gym locally. I'm very particular about my gyms, I will say. I like
Okay, so
things very
what are you
certain.
particular about? Tell me about what do you look for when you go to a gym?
For me, it's the amount of people. I cannot stand spending half my workout just like waiting for equipment. And then also certain types of equipment. I do have some limitations just with some injuries from the past, especially when in my overtraining years. So there's certain pieces of equipment that I really like, and I want to make sure that certain gyms have them. So I'm just very particular about the environment, the energy, and then the types of equipment.
So do you like visit a gym, or do you see one, you say, hey, I want to go check it out, and then just kind of try it out, or do you just walk through it, or walk us through that process for you?
Yeah, well, when I moved here to Florida, I wanted to find like my good solid home-based gym, and it took me a long time. I went to all the local gyms and nothing was just like fit the mold that I was looking for, but I finally found the perfect one. And so that's the one I go to now. But every once in a while I just want to check things out, and especially with my goal of trying to build new relationships and meet new people. Like my gym is a lot more private and there's less people, so I'm like I want to sometimes get out and just see what else is out there and be able to like meet people at the gym because I think it's such a great place to connect with people, at least in that like-minded space. So there's a new Gold's Gym that opened up in downtown Tampa, and it looks pretty fancy. So I was like, I'll check it out, see what's going on there. So I went over there, and it was a nice gym, but I ended up not even doing my workout. I went in for 10 minutes, looked around, and then left because they didn't have what I wanted.
Really? You didn't even finish the workout. Wow.
Yeah, because the first couple exercises I had, they didn't have any of the machines that I needed, and they didn't even have 5 pound dumbbells. I was so confused.
I feel like each gym has its like own personality, right? Even within the chains, the big box, the big names. You might go visit a gym or a Gold's in Tampa, and then visit a Gold's in Houston or wherever, and it might be a totally different environment.
hmm Yeah, definitely. No, it was cool to go though. Like definitely a really cool gym. It's just I'm very particular. So I might go back just to like be able to hang out and meet people, but other than that, I'm sticking to my routine. But kind of going along those lines too is one other thing I'm working on, like I said, my main goal is relationships, experiences, and it is so hard for me to deviate from my set plan. It's always been like that. I typically avoided like vacations, events, and stuff just because I wanted to stay locked in. And so now that relationships and experiences are my biggest goal, I've been forced to deviate from my plan because that is taking first priority over work, over other things. And so it's just been interesting to have to force myself to make that other stuff, especially work, take the back burner just a little bit to be able to prioritize these other things. But it's been very good and rewarding and fulfilling at the same time.
Yeah, and it's just trial and error, right? You kind of go figure out what's going to work best, and how far you can push your limits, and it's a learning experience.
Yeah, and I think too, it kind of ties into when I think for me, I've neglected my relationships and experiences for the sake of fitness and work. But I feel like for a lot of people, they sacrifice their health for work and family and other things. And so it's kind of like I feel like it's this very similar dynamic to what we work on with clients too, with bringing health back to the forefront. But for me, it's more bringing like those things to the forefront and like having forcing myself to prioritize those in my routine because we all have the time. It's just making the time and setting our priorities so that they align with our schedule. And so it's kind of been interesting framing it that way. And it makes it a little bit easier for me too, knowing that this is what we coach people on.
Yeah, and it's prioritizing yourself, right? But prioritizing yourself is going to look different for everyone around you. For you, it looks like getting out there and spending more time away from work and less time from the gym, maybe but it's opposite for other people.
Yeah, definitely. But what's been going on in your life?
So, well, when we're recording this podcast or episode, I keep saying part of this episode, then we are past Thanksgiving. So now it's like full steam ahead for Christmas.
Yeah.
So put up the trees and got the decorations out, and the house looks very Christmassy, and got the elf on the shelf going in the classroom, and that always causes a little bit of additional chaos. Because every time they come in, oh my gosh, look at me. the elf is doing. So it's kind of like, I don't know, force that on myself to make chaos in the classroom, but it's worth it. The kids love it. So it's a lot of fun. They named him Pancake, which
I
is,
love it.
it's always interesting to come up with the names. My favorite elf on the shelf name from my class, for my students. One year I had a group of kids that were just super big baseball fans, sports fans. And my favorite baseball player is Jose Altuve, plays for the Houston Astros. And I did not encourage them or anything, but they voted on Jose Altuve as the elf on the shelf name. So they'd be like, "Where's Jose Altuve today?" So it's always funny. They always come up with unique names. So I actually kind of like the name Pancake. I thought it was kind of fun. But yeah, so it's all out Christmas stuff going on, and got a few weeks until Christmas. So just all the shopping and all the decorating and just kind of trying to get everything in for Christmas holidays for sure. But it's just a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. I enjoy it. I enjoy this season.
Yeah, coming up really quick. I've seen a whole lot of videos on like for Elf on the Shelf ideas on Instagram and stuff. I'm curious, like, have you had a favorite one that you've done so far, or one that the kids really loved?
Oh, well, the thing is, I mean, those videos and those pictures and stuff that people post, I mean, I don't know where these people come up with the time. But like I saw one the other day where someone had like hung, or the elf on the shelf was, sitting up there, and it had like a pool noodle all the way down into the kitchen, and it had like Fruit Loops super glued all around the pool noodle. And I mean, hundreds, thousands probably on the, I'm like,
Oh my gosh.
what? Like, what? I don't get it. I don't know. But ours is always fun in the classroom. Usually he's just like hanging from the ceiling or doing just something wacky, and his head's always kind of angled towards some of those kids that maybe shouldn't be talking as much. And they feel like I feel like he's looking at me. And they're like, probably is looking at you. Why don't you stop talking? Type of thing. So that's always fun. But yeah, there's some amazing things that elf does out there for sure.
Fun. Well, that's awesome. Well, let's get into our topic for today, and that is getting pushback from people. And this definitely happens a lot during the holidays too, so I feel like it's a good topic to touch on. But I think this is something we all experience when we start to make changes in our health and our lives in general. And I think to some extent it's unavoidable, and that's okay. I think it's just harder when it comes from the people that are closest to you, whether that be friends, family, a partner, stuff like that. It can be challenging to navigate that criticism, doubt, resistance when you're trying to make some massive change in your life. So I figure it'd be good to break that down. And for starters, it's important to understand why this pushback happens. It's all insecurity. That's it. Like I said, we all experience this, and it's unavoidable when you start making massive changes in your life, whether that's business, fitness, personal goal. People feel threatened and insecure seeing you grow and seeing you change, and it just highlights where they aren't doing things. And subconsciously, they want to bring you back down to their level to feel better about themselves. I think this tends to be the most common reason, and it's not malicious. It's not intentional. Usually, it's just subconscious. They just notice you making these changes, and it puts a mirror in their face, and they realize what they're not doing. And people may also fear losing that version of you that they're familiar with, or just unsure of how it's going to impact your relationship because you are going in different directions. So I think understanding where this is coming from helps put that in perspective too, and make it a little bit easier to move through it. And again, it's not necessarily anything personal against you, it's all on them. And the way I view it is, if you aren't getting pushback, then you aren't doing it right. That's a telltale sign that you're on the right path. So I'm curious, have you received any pushback in your journey, whether that's on your fitness journey or just any other self-improvement pursuits that you've had?
Yeah, I mean, I have over the years. I mean, I don't feel like, or maybe I just haven't taken them on. Maybe I was just kind of naive to it. But you'll get a lot of comments. Like maybe you're not eating something while everyone else is eating, and like, hey, come on, why don't you just live a little?
Mm-hmm.
Or one little thing was not going to ruin your diet. Or if you miss one day at the gym, it's not the end of the world. And I think. And from the opposite side of things, when I was younger, I think a lot of times what I would do is it would be the opposite. Like I was almost trying to be enforcing my good habits on other people. Why are you, not doing this? Why aren't you going to the gym this week? Or why aren't you eating like this? And so I think it can come from both ways as well. Sometimes, when we start building those really healthy habits, And I think both ways, it comes from a place of, it doesn't come from a place of hate. I still think it comes from a place of love, one way or the other. And on the forcing side of things, like I wanted to help other people. It just came across as probably looking down on somebody or saying what they're doing is not good enough. And really, I was just trying to do or say what I thought was going to help them to improve their life, and so that's kind of my experience. I mean, you get those comments a lot. And again, like I don't ever take it from think someone's trying to be hateful or mean. Like you said, there's a lot of things they're dealing with. And I don't know, maybe it's like some kind of coping mechanism to where it's just easier to try to get people to kind of be more like them as opposed to, hey, look at what I'm, not improving on while other people are doing that. But so the way I kind of look at it is if you're going through a healthy journey, and you're starting to feel better about yourself and you're starting to make those changes and you're building those healthy habits, we want to provide support for each other, resources. If someone's asked, if they show you have that conversation, you be that example. And if someone brings up a topic or they're asking questions, that's time to share about it. That's time to kind of go over and say, oh, well, let me tell you what's working for me. And again, like it's like with a lot of things. If you're the example, eventually, if people want to make that change, then they'll kind of start asking you, like, how did you get to where you are? What did you do to start making these changes? So basically, like, avoid forcing those beliefs on other people, and then encouraging like small, manageable steps. If someone came up to me and said, hey, watching your healthy journey, and I want to start building healthier habits, I wouldn't tell them, okay, well, we got to get in the gym like 5 times a week. You need to work out for an hour. You need to change your diet. We're talking about, okay, let's talk about some small wins and kind of go from there and just kind of encourage them along the way.
Yeah, for sure. I think the amount of shit that I've gotten over the years is pretty crazy, though. Sounds like a little bit more than yours. But for me, it seems like health and fitness goals seem to be the worst of it. At least for me, because I am very locked in. I don't miss. I haven't really missed since I started 10 years back, as we kind of discussed. I'm just very routine oriented, structured, very consistent. Been hitting the gym every morning without fail, bringing my meal prep everywhere with me, not drinking, going to bed early. And basically all of those habits have gotten pushback from people. Now, granted, you also need to look at what kind of people are giving you that pushback, because I think most of the cases it's people that aren't super close to you and see things from the outside, and also people that you don't necessarily want to live like, or you don't want to emulate their habits or their lifestyle. So like I immediately just see that as their insecurity, and like it doesn't really bother me as much. But then of course there's getting it from people who are closer to you, which we'll get into that more as well. But I get a lot of those passive comments too, like, oh, that's what you're eating? Come on, just have one drink, or you aren't gonna eat out with us, or you can't skip the gym this morning, all the same stuff. Like, it's all of those passive comments that can sometimes get you in your head and that are like just questioning your goals and choices that feel very undermining. And you will get that from everyone. A lot of people will do that, and I feel like it's the face-to-face level of criticism that you're gonna get. But then there's that more direct pushback too, like, you're too obsessed with this, you're changing too much. And my response to that is, like, that's the whole point. I better be growing and changing from the person I was yesterday, a few months ago, or the person I was last year. And I have a million examples, but a few come to mind, especially around drinking is a huge one. People push back a ton on that. I think people tend to identify very deeply with drinking for some reason. And I could just be chilling, sober, having a great time, having a blast. Like, if I go to a show too, I'm just dancing around, having a great time. But for some reason, if I don't drink and they're drinking, somehow that's not okay. And so then there's like, come on, live a little, have some fun. But the funny thing is, I am having fun. Same with fitness, training, food. People always say, live a little, have fun. But I am living. I feel so fucking good. I am performing at the top of my game physically, mentally, and I feel like I'm living my life to the fullest. So why would I want to change that? This is living for me.
Yeah, and I think it's easy to get defensive, right? Or to even be sensitive about some of the comments, or if especially if it's happens quite often, you kind of get tired of it. But like you said, it's like, someone's like, oh, live a little, or you need to do this. But I think it's part of that's the communication of, hey, you know what? Hey, you can do whatever you want, no judgment on your side. But this is, my choices right now are helping me to feel the best that I can possibly feel, and I do enjoy this. And it's not that I feel like I can't drink. If I want to have a drink, I can have a drink, or I can't eat this. It's my choice, and because I have these goals, I have these habits I want to keep up with, and so I'm going to stick to them. I want to keep this discipline going, and so that's just the way I'm going to be. And once these habits become more instilled in you, you start thinking about, the desire to eat like that, in a consistent basis. Of course I have that time where I want to go out and have a burger and fries, randomly, but a consistent thing where I'm eating that all the time, you just don't have the desire anymore. The desire to drink like all the time. Again, there's certain times like I'll have Taco Tuesday. I love to have like a margarita on Taco Tuesday, but it's not something where I'm drinking like all the time or feel like I have the desire. So all of those little things all add up, and I can either go two ways. It either takes me further away from my goals and my best self, or it takes me, closer to that, or it takes me further away from that. So I do feel like it's pretty interesting how everyone has a different perspective of how they live life. And I think if they actually experienced what we experience a lot of times, I think it'd be a different story, or they'd have a different viewpoint as well. And then, of course, working like in office space, or I've worked in, different companies, and, there's a lot of people who have unhealthy habits or poor habits around. I mean, it's easy to kind of get caught up in that, being more like that. It's really hard when you're kind of like the outlier of the group and everyone's doing it one way. So some of the things that really helped out is meal prepping, bringing your own meals, things like that. I feel like taking care of preparing what you need to prepare for each day, and just knowing that you're going to do it your way and everyone can do it their way. And like I said, kind of going back to that enforcer type of thing. If people ask you about it, you're going to share, but otherwise they're going to kind of do their own.
Yeah, to me, I don't have any desire to like eat shit food or drink just because it takes me further away from my goals and my best self. And again, like you said, it's just funny how people have that different perspective on what's actually living life. And I think if they experience what it is to feel and perform at the top of their game, like it may be a little bit different, but different things work for different people, of course. And then, yeah, going into what you said about the office space too, I think that's a very common place where people can get thrown off because there is just so much junk and so much unhealthy habits going around. For me, when I worked in the office, I brought my meal prep every day, like I said, and I was literally literally in the kitchen cooking breakfast every morning, and people would come in and just always make comments and stuff. They'd be like, "What are you doing?"
Actually, one year the way my schedule worked out well. And I was kind of trying like a kind of fasting a little bit, not like real fasting. I would fast for like 12 hours, something like that. And I just had a break like around 9. And I have this little blender that I would bring in into like every time I'd break, I'd be blending up my shake and stuff like that. And people were like, "Oh, you're having your shake right now, huh?" It's just like yeah, it's my breakfast. I gotta get this protein in, and it just worked out well. So it's funny because then you hear people start talking about later, like, "Oh, I guess I had a shake yesterday," or they're like, "Oh, I have shakes at home," type of thing. So without saying anything to them about it, you just kind of spark up those conversations too.
Yeah, definitely. It's funny how people comment on all that stuff. I hear that a lot too. Even when I was in the office, people would cater meals like all the time, and so I'd still just be in there heating up my meal prep in the microwave while everyone else is eating like cupcakes and pizza and whatnot.
Yeah.
There's actually this funny story that I'll never forget from when I worked in the office. It was like some sort of candy or cookies that we had. And I was already known for being the person who was just dialed on point with fitness, eating my meal prep and everything. Everyone kind of knew that. And after a certain point, people don't really bother you anymore. They just understand like this is just how you operate.
Right.
But one guy it wasn't sitting well with him for some reason. And he just wanted to see me eat candy, I guess. I still don't understand to this day, but he literally sat at my desk for a good like 10, 15 minutes, just trying to get me to eat a piece of candy. And I was like, "No, I'm good, dude." He's like, "Why not?" I'm like, "Oh, it doesn't make me feel that good. It triggers my anxiety and it just doesn't make me feel good mentally." He's like, "Come on, it's just one. Why not?" He literally just, I kid you not, 10 minutes just trying to force something. I'm like, "Dude, I'm good." No, thank you.
Yeah. Well, I don't understand. Like, what goes through your mind when you're doing something like that?
Yeah, it was just interesting.
You're probably, I imagine you're probably more like me in terms of like when everything is getting pushed on you, you almost kind of like go like the opposite way.
Oh yeah, I want to double
Right?
down and be like, "Hell no, dude."
Yeah.
You're gonna beat the
Like,
fight.
I wonder if he would have if he really wanted to do this, is what I would have done if I were him. I would have tried to find out what kind of candy or chocolate or something that you would actually like to eat, right? And I would just put it on your desk, and don't say anything about it. Say, hey, I got this for you. Thought you might enjoy it sometime, whatever. You know, that would probably more chance you eat that sometime during the day if that would happen, right?
Yeah, for sure.
That's so
Yeah.
crazy.
It's always just so funny. I wonder like what is the train of thought there?
Who knows? Who knows? Obviously, it wasn't working very hard, right? All right. So let's kind of get to how do we need to handle these situations, or we're getting pushback from friends and family about stuff like that. So first thing we talked about was accepting and understanding, right? And just understanding that not everyone is going to really understand the decisions you make and the choices you've made, right? They're not going to always support your journey for whatever reason, and that's okay. Not everyone needs to understand it. Not everyone needs to be your biggest support. So accept the reality instead of like I said earlier, trying to change their views. They may not be on board with that, and that's totally okay. It does require, I think, a lot of like self-work, self-discipline, and then of course you have to have the ability to have that love and compassion to others despite what they might be saying to you or how they might be feeling deep inside. And again, kind of, if we want to talk about kind of the compassion side of things, especially if they're very vocal about something that you're doing, hey, you need to be, why don't you live a little bit, like we said, or why don't you have some more candy, or why aren't you eating like this, have some more dessert. There could be something really deep inside that they're really struggling with. And we, probably need to keep that in consideration as well.
I think there's also kind of like we talked about earlier, different types of pushback. I think on sort of another tangent, social media is another thing too. It's not as relevant for a lot of people, but it's definitely common if you're someone who's posting online. I think it's a little bit easier to ignore on social media just because they don't know you. It's usually just some random person on a screen. But like we said, it's harder when it's people you care about and you actually care about their opinions and they're closer to you. I think for me, I've gotten a lot of this for choosing certain foods at even family gatherings or choosing to forgo certain things to go to the gym and whatnot, even on vacations. Like in the past with my family, I'd skip out and stuff to like go to the gym and they always have comments. But at the end of the day, it comes down to knowing your why and what you're working towards. Because if you are truly secure in your vision, your goals, your habits, and what you're working towards, it becomes a hell of a lot easier just to dismiss any sort of comments and just stay the course because you're good, you're locked in. And I guess for me too, it's never really bothered me when family has comments because I'm not really close to my family. So it was just kind of like in one ear, out the other. But it happened with business too. Again, this applies to kind of any area of life where you're looking to grow and improve and kind of stepping out of your normal comfort zone. When I was starting that, I think that's where I got the most criticism from my family. And maybe not even criticism, but more just doubt, I guess. They just didn't understand why I was doing it. They didn't believe in me. And so I kind of just kept it to myself, didn't really say shit, just did my thing, kept quiet. And then it's funny, like a few years later when I'm actually successful, they're like, oh, that's amazing. So proud of you. I just think it's funny how people end up coming around. And same with fitness. All the people in my office that I worked with, they toward the end, like once they accepted, okay, this is who she is, this is just not going to change, eventually they start coming and asking for advice. I actually had quite a few people who were asking me for advice and I was giving them tips and it was amazing. I was so excited and they were like sharing their wins with me and how many steps they got and like going to the gym. So it's cool to see how it can turn around too. Like if you just stay the course, stay true to your why, they will come around and they will understand and start to pick up on what you're doing because you're leading by example.
I'm glad you said that because it reminds me of there are a lot of people that will come up and share like random like fitness wins, right? Like someone will come up with, oh, hey, guess what? I got 10,000 steps yesterday. Like completely just like randomly out of the blue, share that with me. And I love that. I think that's the coolest thing in the world, and so like if you didn't kind of, if you did just kind of blend in with the crowd or, not keep your habits going and keep that discipline, people wouldn't want to share that with you because they don't have that connection or they don't understand that. But they know, oh, you know what? You know who would really like to hear about this? Mackenzie. Or who would really like to hear about this? Laurence. He would understand my excitement for 10,000, steps. So I think that's a good point you brought up. I think I love hearing stuff like that.
Yes, that is so good. Those are the best ones too. Because yeah, no one would they wouldn't want to share that if they didn't know that you were like so consistent, so steady with those goals and like had that same mindset. So you're definitely attracting the right kind of people. I think that goes for anything. Whatever you do, you're attracting the right kind of people. The people that are giving you pushback, maybe not your people, but then you find those people that like really resonate and have wanted to say something or are working towards those things, and it just allows them to step into it that much more. So I love that kind of stuff too. And I think when it's people closer to you, if you want to navigate how to work through that type of pushback, I think communication is key, like anything in
Yes.
life. It's one
Yep.
of our core values for a reason,
Yep.
but you got to
Communication is
explain.
key.
You got to explain what you're doing, why it matters to you, and ask for their support. Typically, the pushback is coming from just a lack of understanding of where you're at. They don't understand like why you're doing. They just see you going in a different direction than they are, or just a different direction than what you've been doing, and it's different for them. And so they just may be confused, or they may be afraid that you're going to distance yourself, or that something's going to change. So you just need to understand their perspective, where they're coming from, what they're afraid of, and then just explain like, hey, this is what I'm doing. It's very important to me for XYZ reasons. This is why I'm doing it. Can I have your support? Do you want to do it together?
Yeah, you know, and I think it's how you phrase things, how you word things. It's part of that communication. I was just thinking an example. Let's say, Chris, we talked about Christmas coming up. Let's say you're going to a Christmas party and you're trying to, you have certain goals that you're reaching towards. And a lot of times we go to parties where they have a lot of food out, right? And, I think there's a big difference between saying things like, I can't have this item, as opposed to, I don't want to have it. And then explaining it, someone's like, oh, why can't you have that? Or why don't you want to have that? Why can't I have it? Kind of sounds like you're just restricting yourself. And people are going to be like, oh, that, I think you'll probably get more comments from that. You'll be okay. You look amazing. Just, it's just one day, whatever. But if you're like, oh, I choose not to have this. This is not part of my plan right now. I think that opens up a different type of conversation. And so I think that's really important to communicate, one way or the other. And then the other thing too is, I think, let's say there's a bunch of pies out, cakes out, stuff like that. Most of the time I just don't say anything, or maybe I might grab some if there's something that really enticing to me. But, I think one thing is also common. Oh man, those look so delicious. Complimenting what it looks like. And then if someone's like, oh, you should have some, it's like, oh, I'd love to have some. It's just, right now it's not part of my plan, or, I choose not to, whatever. But then, the people feel like, okay, well, he's part of us. It's just, he's choosing not to, as opposed to this guy can't even like look at a piece of cake or something without, he's just weird, type of thing. So I don't know. I think communication is very important. There's just little aspects throughout it, that kind of help you handle that journey with other people as well. Or that conversation with other people.
Yeah, I love that reframe too. And it just helps with your journey and making it more sustainable too. It's not about restricting. It's like an active choice, and you have a greater vision and goal in mind, and it just kind of helps align with that, and it definitely helps relay that to other people so in a way that they better understand.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. So another point is, and this might be difficult, but ignoring critics, right? And I think especially a lot of us who are kind of more, people pleasers, or we want people to approve of everything we do, or whatever our goals are. And we just have to understand not everyone is going to support our goals. And we just have to embrace that and know that and understand that. So on the other side, not that you don't want to hang out with those people that necessarily not going to support your goals, but it's also really helpful to find the group of people, or those people that are going to support your goals. So kind of like we talked about this one time, one of the episodes, but surrounding yourself with supportive people, people with like-minded goals, and they're going to help you, remind you why you're on this journey, because they might be on that similar journey as well. And then the biggest thing, going back to like what you said with the, find your why and understand your why type of thing, focus on your own reasons for, pursuing these goals, and having a solid reason and understanding behind, okay, I know everyone's kind of, pushing against me on this or whatever, but I really want to do this because I have this I'm going towards, and have that big broad picture of what you're looking forward to. So another thing is kind of, I think going off that, reassess your network. So that's kind of just what I was speaking of. So surround yourself with people who have similar goals, similar values. Spend more time with those people who are going to encourage you, and understand your vision. And this could be in a way, you could, go into the gym, and a lot of times those people have those like-minded goals. And like that's what we talked about. One of the things I love about gyms is everyone has that growth mindset there, right? They're all there to make some changes in whatever form that may be. But explore communities, could be online, it could be in person. Find those like-minded individuals, a walk group, that type of thing would be really cool, right? And just to join some kind of fitness community. We have the online community that we're a part of as well. So,
Shameless plug.
yeah, right. But you're going to find people that are going to probably be supportive of your goals, right? And so I think that's just so important.
Yeah, and that's part of the reason why I went to Gold's Gym is purely for finding the right type of people. I always think of where are the people that are going to share that mindset, that drive, where do they hang out? And typically it's the gym or just some networking event. So that's exactly why I did that, is to try to find more of those people.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And know that true friends and family, they're going to support your positive changes. And especially if you're communicating what you're doing, why you're doing it, we haven't ever said this, why it's so important to you. I think sometimes people don't truly understand why it's important that you have this goal of whatever it may be,
Mm-hmm.
and if you do just strictly build relationships on behaviors that are unhealthy, such as like drinking or overeating type of thing, that may be something where you need to kind of reassess and look at it and decide if these are helping you grow or are they bringing you down. So reevaluating those relationships that no longer align with your goals, and surrounding yourself around people that are on the same trajectory that you are.
Yeah. And don't be afraid to set boundaries with people and hard boundaries with people.
Yeah, that's hard, right?
Yeah.
Especially if it's someone really close to you.
Yeah, exactly. I think going through these types of changes and lifestyle shifts can really reveal the type of people that you want in your life and the type of people that you don't. Especially if after you communicate, they still give you pushback and they do not support your goals and your vision. There's a good chance they probably shouldn't be in your life, to be honest. And, or it's just one of those people that you see here and there and you just kind of keep them more at a distance. It's not that you need to cut them out completely, but it's just not someone that you keep super close in your circle. But overall, this is a good way to weed out what kind of people are truly in your circle, want to see you winning. And it's likely going to be a very small handful of people that actually understand that. I want to support you through that. And that is okay. You're weeding through the crowd and you can set those boundaries with each person as applicable. And this is also where having the right community comes into play, because when people are aligned in your mindset and your vision and have the same habits and goals as you, like, you need to seek out more of those people. So if you're realizing that the people in your circle don't support you, it's time to start branching out into other groups or other people to make those types of connections. Like we said, we have a community for that as well. Or just seek out what kind of people, like think about what kind of people you want to align with and where do they hang out, and go to those places. And again, this doesn't mean you need to cut out your old friends altogether or your family altogether, but it may mean you're just outgrowing that phase of your life. If they aren't willing to change and adapt with you or even just support you, then it may just be time to distance yourself or just set healthy boundaries that are going to help you grow and help keep your relationship intact or whatever you want to get out of it. I think it's very important that you continue to move on and find people that are going to lift you up to that next level as opposed to holding you back, because hanging around these people who are on a completely different path than you is only going to set you back further and drag you down if that's all that you surround yourself with.
Yeah, and sometimes, I feel like people get in this like group mentality where everyone just kind of, they've been hanging out for a long time together, they do all the same type of thing. And it's almost like no one's really afraid to branch out from that and do something
Mm-hmm.
different. So they all just keep doing the same type of thing. And so you never know. You branching out might cause everyone else to follow along with you. And now you got a group of friends that you love dearly, but they're also coming along with you on your journey.
Even better. Yeah, that's a dream right there. If you can communicate and start doing that and everyone wants to follow along in your path. Absolutely. And I talk with clients about this all the time too. It's like the old group of college buddies that you hang around and drink or don't want to follow in your footsteps. And so it comes down to how to actually handle each of these situations. And I think for the most part, it's mental. Again, understanding where it's coming from, communicating that with them, but staying super clear with what you're doing and why you're doing it and who you are. For me, that's one thing. In the beginning, I may have gotten in my head a little bit when I got pushed back, but I've always been super fucking locked in and clear on who I am, why I'm doing this, why it matters to me. So all the opinions really didn't faze me in the slightest, whether that is the comments at work or on social media or from family. I just brush it off. I knew it was all bullshit. I didn't pay any mind to it or really anything people had to say. And at a certain point, it just kind of becomes funny, like especially with the office stuff. It's just like hilarious, especially when they're trying to push it on you and constantly giving you shit. I'm just like, okay, cool, good for you. Do whatever you want to do. To me, like I'm chilling. I'm locked in with what I'm doing,
Yeah.
and I think getting in that mindset of just understanding and being fully secure in who you are is super important. And if you're feeling insecure about your decisions, then maybe it's time to reevaluate your goals and why you're doing it, because at that deep level, you should feel very secure in what you're doing and should feel very aligned with that. And it'll become a lot easier to disregard all the other stuff because nothing else matters that once that baseline is solid.
Yeah. So a couple other things we want to think about is as we're changing, we want to set the standard of how people are going to treat you. We want to be kind of going back to like the big wins comments, where people just come up to you and say, "Oh, hey, I did this," or it kind of naturally attracts people, and I think that's great. And you want to push towards the right people, and you want people pushing towards you. Going back to that group mentality of everyone, I really truly think that if you communicate to those people, say, "Hey, look, these are the changes I want to go through because it's going to be better for me," and you explain your why and you go into detail, and then I think most people will understand that and maybe even start supporting you better. But a couple of things I want to look at. We want to make sure. I don't know how I want to say this. I was thinking about this the other day. Sometimes I think people feel like it's harder to connect with someone or connect with me because you're doing things a little bit differently than everybody, and that can weigh down a little bit on you because sometimes it's hard to be that outlier. It's hard to do something one way when everyone else is doing it another way. Especially when you might get those comments, or especially when this is a challenging thing. Going through that health journey is not an easy journey. There's a lot of setbacks, a lot of up and downs, and it's easy to kind of want to slip back into what everyone else is doing because, let's be honest, it's easier to not really care what you eat, right? It's easier to just kind of hang out on the couch all day type of thing. It's difficult to get up early to go to the gym. It's difficult to, get enough protein every day. It's difficult to do all these things that you really have to do to live a healthy lifestyle. So a couple of things I thought about to help you along that journey is have that positive mindset. So set your goals based on your desires, not like to prove other people wrong, right? You should never want to set your goals just to do something because, to prove other people wrong. You want to set your goals based on what you need to be doing that's going to be healthy for you. And those positive goals are going to lead to long-term success. And then negative motivations, they never last, right? Then you're going to get burnt out quickly. I wrote in here, avoid revenge goals. That's something that came up. I think exercise should definitely be a life enhancer, right? And it shouldn't be a way to punish other people in a way, right? We want to, any kind of revenge mindset. It's not going to last, right? So we want to keep fitness enjoyable and part of a positive lifestyle. And that goes, in terms of yourself as well. Your workouts shouldn't be to punish yourself because you're guilty of something or you're shameful or something. It should be out of self-love, out of self-care. And so I think that's key there. Focus on what you can control. That's probably something we can talk about in all aspects of life. There's going to be some things we just can't control. And so we got to be able to focus on the things that we can. So the workouts, the nutrition, the mindset, all those things, we can always work out. Those are on our own control. Don't let those uncontrollable factors or other opinions or other people's opinions affect your journey. And then, you got to stay committed. You have those goals set and you have that why set. You just got to focus on the things that you can change and focus on things that you can improve.
And one thing I want to touch on too is some more actionable tips for handling specifically unsupportive partners or people that are very close to you, because I think, like we said, those are the ones that are the hardest to deal with because we don't want to cut those people out. We want them in our life. We want them to be supporting us and we want to be supporting them. And so how do we handle that when we have a partner that's unsupportive or someone that's really close to you that's unsupportive? I think one is communication, like we've been saying, share your why with them, explain your goals and why that matters on a very deep level so they actually understand. I think even when partners are aware of our goals, sometimes they don't understand the deeper why. And so it can be hard for them to like truly connect and also understand like the actual pain that you're feeling and why you're making this change. If they knew the pain that you're experiencing, I guarantee that they would be on board for the most part.
Yeah.
And also just be clear that your changes aren't about judging them, but it's just improving yourself. Because I think sometimes people can get in their head about that and they see you changing again, it just kind of pushes that mirror back on them. And so then they start having doubts in their head there. Also, involving them in your journey, another great way. Ask them to join, whether that's just getting in a gym together, going on a walk together, cooking something healthy together,
Mhm.
or just staying, if you're going sober or something, staying sober together, whatever it is. Find shared activities so that way you can strengthen your connection while also pursuing the goals together.
Yeah, especially if that, that loved one needs to be on that journey as well.
Mm-hmm.
That's like the real positive way of handling it, as opposed to trying to force them to join with you, or, guilting them into wanting to join you type of thing too. Is just simply asking, hey, I'm going on a walk tonight after dinner. Would you like to go with me?
Yeah, and a great time to strengthen the relationship and bond and connect too, doing
Yeah.
that kind of stuff. Also, setting clear boundaries. Make it clear what's non negotiable for you, whether that's staying sober, sticking to your meal prep, hitting certain workouts, and state your needs calmly and confidently. Like, don't make it a big thing. Don't need to fight about it, but just, again, that calm communication so that way they understand where you're at. And gauge their willingness to support you. If they're open to understanding and adapting, you'll be able to build on that. And like you said, if we can get it in together, that's even better. It's going to make you both infinitely more successful when you're in it together and have that strong support system. But if they remain unsupportive despite the communication, it could be worth considering whether this relationship aligns with your long term vision. That's just the sad truth. Remember, your progress isn't about their approval, so stay secure in what you're doing, your goals, your values. And it is okay to outgrow relationships that no longer support the person that you're becoming. By staying true to yourself and communicating effectively, you'll either strengthen that relationship or gain clarity on whether it's holding you back. So how have you seen this show up like in work with clients, for example? Have you had any of your clients who have had unsupportive partners or had dealt with this pushback? And if so, how did you guys navigate that?
Yeah, and I think it often shows up in like little ways, and not big. So, oh my gosh, I can't believe you want to work out. Why would you want to work out? It's more so things like, well, I wanted to go this, I wanted to do this together, but you have to go to your workout. Or I wanted to go to the movie, or I wanted to sit on the couch and watch a show, but you wanted to go walk on the treadmill or walk outside. Just like little things like that. So it's not necessarily just coming out saying, I don't like what you're doing. It's just, and I feel like a lot of times people would like feel like, oh, you're choosing that instead of me. And so it's really important. And what I've talked to my clients about as well, it's really important that, like you said, have that communication and that conversation, and kind of think about that ahead of time. I think a lot of times, like if that happened to me, I might get defensive and be like, well, I want to work out, it has nothing to do with you. Just let me do my thing, without thinking about how it might really affect them, and explain that. Say, oh, I totally understand. Hey, I want to get this walk in. After that, let's watch the movie or the show, or I want to do this. Include them, make sure they understand, and then explain why it's so important to you again. And that might, you might have to do that a lot. And remember, I'm doing this because of this, right? I think on the nutrition side, sometimes it's really hard. I have clients that are trying to make better choices, the things they eat, but then they might have a partner who is not necessarily on board with that. And, it's kind of like with the things, if it's in the house, if it's in the kitchen, it's going to be eaten, right? And so like if you have a certain food item that, you have a really hard time avoiding, and your partner or someone that you live with is constantly buying that, and they're like, well, you can be on your journey, but I want to have this food in the house, that can be a big challenge. So again, it goes back to communication and talking about, okay, I get that, I understand that, but it really bothers me. If you don't have that conversation, they may not understand why it's such a big deal to you. So you have to explain to them, hey, I can't resist this item, right? This is just really hard for me. So if it's in the kitchen, I'm probably going to go and eat it. And I'm really working hard on this goal. And that's one of the things that I don't want to have in the kitchen. Again, just having that open communication, and sharing, as much as you can with them.
Yeah, I think even going back to your first example where you said there's someone who wants to go to the gym, but their partner wants to watch a movie together or whatever it is, a lot of times their pushback isn't about you making changes, it's about what they're losing or what they're having to sacrifice. And so just simply having that conversation and understanding what they're wanting to get out of it, maybe they're just missing that quality time with you and that's what they want. So then you can find a way to schedule in that quality time or again, do it together or something, but it's just small little tweaks to make sure they're getting what they need out of it. And then that way you can equally get what you need on your journey. I think that a lot of the times it really is that simple and you'll be able to figure out what they're looking for and what they're missing and be able to come to a conclusion and come to a compromise on making sure that you're both getting what you need out of it.
Yes, no, that's a great point.
I'm going deep into this topic with one of my clients right now. He has been absolutely crushing it. He's over 100 pounds down, over 1 year sober. He is probably just as dialed in as I am, which is saying a
Yeah,
lot. I think like
that's
he's
impressive. Yeah, this guy is crushing it for sure.
yeah, he is locked in. And he notices he has the same mentality as me too. He gets a lot of pushback, or not even pushback, but just a lot of comments from his family because his family all drinks, and obviously he doesn't drink, and he's just locked in with everything. But he just thinks it's funny, he's just like it's just annoying at this point. Like I don't even want to hang out with them. So he has that same mentality because he is just so locked in on his vision and his why, and it's so beautiful to see. But then he also is experiencing his partner pushing back a ton. And so this is what me and him are really diving deep on and having a lot of conversations about this and how to navigate that. And truthfully, like it may result in him having to start fresh and like just break away and find someone else that is going to be more supportive of his journey because like we're going through all these things that we talked about. And sometimes if someone is just so opposite in the other direction and so against you making those changes, again, you need to do what's best for you. You need to stay true to your values and your goals and your vision and do what's best for you.
All right, so are we ready for a recap? Let's sum it all
Yeah.
up.
Yep.
All right. So, I mean, I think there's a lot of good content there. There's a lot of things we discussed. It's very important. But so, just a couple of things, just to recap it all. So, pushback is going to be inevitable, right? It's going to happen. It's not necessarily going to be the end of the world. So, I think you just kind of embrace it and know that a lot of times they're probably doing that because you're doing something good. You're on the right track. Having that really strong why. What is your real purpose for this? And a sense of purpose, and just really, owning that, and then and sharing that with other people, making sure they understand that, accepting and understanding, knowing that not everyone is going to be as supportive, not everyone is going to be on the same page as you, and that's okay. Again, we've said this a bunch. Communication with those around you, especially those that you're really close with, to understand what kind of journey you're going through. One thing we didn't talk about too much, but especially with those with loved ones and ones that you're close with, before or while you're starting the journey, it's probably a great idea to kind of communicate with them. Say, hey, these are the kind of things that might pop up. And almost kind of like prepare them for, hey, this I don't know because I'm new to this journey or whatever. Yeah, but these are the things that maybe my trainers told me that might come, or I've seen on social media, or my friends dealing with. These are the things, and sometimes if those are mapped out ahead of time, you can work with that partner, loved one, whoever it may be, so that those issues don't become major issues down the road.
Definitely. No, I love that. That's something we do with clients too, is we always pre-frame the journey and like what kind of things they can expect throughout the process. And so it's so important in like just knowing what to expect and being able to like have that in the back of your mind to plan mentally, plan physically. And I think, like you said, applying that to your partner or whoever is, giving you some pushback will be huge. So that way they have that in the back of their mind. They understand like what's coming as opposed to it being some big shock and some big dramatic change from what they're used to.
Right. Yeah, I think that's a great point. Finding the right community, and that might be just an additional community than the community that you're hanging out with now. It doesn't mean you have to get rid of friends necessarily, but maybe finding a new group of friends as well that you can do the fun stuff with that's along this journey, whether it's like a walk group or people at the gym or whatever you are working towards. Setting boundaries, definitely okay to set boundaries with other people, and then just how to handle that pushback, right? So having that positive mindset, avoiding any kind of revenge goals. All the goals that you set for yourself should be out of self-love and self-care. Focus on all the things that you actually can control in life and include them in your journey. So basically just nurturing a positive, self-supportive mindset. It's going to help you stay resilient against negativity, and then that'll help you stay on track with your fitness goals.
Absolutely. Bottom line, if you're getting pushback, remember you're on the right track. You got to do something different to set yourself apart from the crowd and to achieve something different. So that's a wrap. If you want to connect with us, you can find us on social media. We'll link that in the show notes. And then the best place to connect is going to be in our private community. Like I said, if you're looking for that supportive, like-minded environment, we run all kinds of challenges, giveaways, calls, new content in there every day, and it's completely free to join. So I'll put that link in the notes as well. And we'll see y'all next week.